morning, everybody! Welcome, 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 welcome. Yeah. Hello, chat. How are things going? Hopefully things are going well. Oh, yeah, the class code is probably wrong. Hubba. Yup. Bing bang. That's how that works. My goodness. Sorry about that. No, Nathan, you are probably in the right class. I know I'm in the right class, so hopefully you are too. So, a lot has been going on the last couple of days, and it would behoove us to go through all of the various things that have happened. You know, because that's a usual sort of thing that you do at the beginning of a lecture. So, I'll get the easy stuff out of the way first. The exam office has scheduled our final exam for this course. I just made the announcement a few minutes ago. We are scheduled for Thursday, December 10th at 9 a.m. Just like the tests, you'll have 24 hours to complete the exam, and that'll be everything with respect to the exam. So we got a date. That's good. So, for those of you who are not aware of the sort of goings-on with respect to, the recent town hall that occurred yesterday, and stuff of that nature, essentially what has been going on is, for one reason and another, it has come to the attention of the faculty in the CAS department that the workload that has been put on you guys, sort of because of the online learning stuff, there's been, shall we say, a bit of a rocky transition between in-person classes and online classes. People, I guess, a lot of classes have decided that you guys have like all of this time because you're not commuting, I guess. And so the whole thing's getting looked at. This was things were sort of brought to my attention. I'd heard snippets here and there, but things were sort of largely brought to my attention by Tasneem, who is your MES representative, your cohort's MES representative. If you're in the chat, say hi. She wrote me a very lovely letter that outlined the extreme amounts of pressure and duress that you guys are under right now because of all of this business. Like, I heard from one of my TAs, who shall remain nameless, who's in second year right now, that like one of the math department, like one of the calculus courses in second year had just like decided to give everybody an extra emergency assignment just because the marks are low or high or something. I'll answer questions about the test once I get through this stuff that I'm talking about. And that's like kind of like crazy to me that you could think that that was a good idea. But, I'm not necessarily gonna tell other professors how to run their courses, but, yeah. People in previous years lived in campus, and if they, yeah, like, I don't know. At any rate, I took your concerns to Dr. Lawford, and, I indicated to him what I thought was the case, was that this situation was going to go critical soon unless something was done about it. And, I expect he probably got a few more messages along the same lines from a few more different sources, because he did have that town hall yesterday, and it seems you guys have had an opportunity to have your voices heard about it, and this practice that seems to be a little too commonplace of having the synchronous and asynchronous lectures be required, which essentially doubles the amount of lecture time you guys have to do. That seems to be a thing that they're interested in curtailing. So hopefully that is a good thing for you guys. I imagine it will be. So yeah, like, we're working on it. Like, as you get older, you kind of begin to realize that very often the adults in the room don't have all of the answers either. So, yeah, I think, like, all of your professors are reasonable people, and they're interested in you guys succeeding. I expect that in a lot of cases, the reasons that these things are occurring is because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. By which I mean there's not really been much of a coordinating effort to make sure that everybody has a reasonable amount of work to do. This is, generally speaking, like, normally when there's a problem with workload in a university program, it's because of something like that. Professors don't really talk to each other about what they do with their courses. There you are. Hello. I am going to read that letter that you asked me to, Tasneem. I'm gonna get to these chat questions once I've finished with my pontifications. So, with respect to the whole situation, I'm hoping, yeah. No, I don't think that it was, so Dr. Lawford, who is the department head, did send a communication around indicating that the workload needs to be adjusted down, not up. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Although it seems to be the case that the philosophy and the take that that the math department is taking on all of these things, they seem to be off in their own little end of campus, making their own decisions about things. So it seems to me that if we want to get through to the math department about these sorts of practices, it seems to me that the next level to address things at probably would be at the level of the Faculty of Engineering itself, rather than any of the particular departments of engineering. Like, if the math program is doing this to you guys, they're doing it to the whole dang engineering program. So, yeah. Yeah. So let me explain what we're actually going to do for this class in order to adjust things. And, like, I know that things are sort of I've received multiple comments that this class isn't necessarily the problem, but adjustments have been made anyways, because even if we're not the worst offender, we're still contributing to the problem. So, yeah. And, to a certain extent, calculus is just a difficult class, but, yeah. Anyway, so here's a summary of the policies that we are going to put into effect immediately and retroactively for some of them, and hopefully this will help you guys out, lighten your burdens a little bit so that you guys can, oh, I don't know, maybe even have a life outside of school, like, you know, insofar as that's possible while there's a pandemic going on. But, you know, it'd still be nice, you know? Anyway, so policy number 1, your lowest assignment grade will be dropped for the purposes of calculating your final grade. So a number of you have been asking and inquiring about why on the grade book your certain grade items say that they've been dropped. Well, that's because of this. This has been, it used to be, I kind of imported an old version of the class in order to construct this one, in which that was the case. This was actually a practice that I ended a couple of offerings ago, but we're bringing it back full force. So essentially, the Avenue gradebook will automatically calculate whichever of your grades is the lowest one, and automatically drop that from the calculation of your assignment marks as such. It'll only drop the first one. Like, if you have, for example, 9 zeros in the grade book because, you know, 9 of the assignments haven't been marked yet, it'll only drop the first one. So a lot of you, assignment 2 will be dropped right now. Some of you, maybe assignment 1 will be dropped now if you know. There have been a lot of things going on with assignment 1, and I will address assignment 1 and the way that things have been going for that, but let me just get through this first. So, number 2. The TAs and I are going to go through the questions for the assignments and make some of the questions into bonus questions, probably around 1 per assignment or thereabouts. So, this is an effort to make the assignments less stringent, while at the same time not removing material from the course. So if you have the time and the volition and the energy to do all of the assignment questions that were previously assigned, then you'll get bonus grades for that. I'm not going to change the policy where bonus grades on assignments will, like, spill over into tests. Bonus marks on assignments will still only be applicable to assignments, but there are going to be significantly more bonus marks up for grabs now. So, essentially, the thing about bonus grades is, please, you're not obligated to do the bonus questions. It's up to you whether you'll be doing the bonus questions. I take the view that it's not, like, it's not penalizing you. Like, if you don't do the bonus questions, that's not then you're not being penalized for that. And my sort of threshold for that is it is still possible for you to get 100% on a assignment in which you do not complete the bonus questions. So, you know. Is it advantageous to do the bonus questions? Well, yes, of course, they're bonus questions, but you're not penalized for not doing so. So yeah, some of the assignment material is now bonus questions. We are working on rolling that out. It's kind of a tall order to get done all in a couple of days, so we're probably going to roll out those changes on an ongoing basis. Essentially, that does not require any change whatsoever to the assignment files themselves. So it's not like we're going to necessarily need to put out all new assignment files, and it's not like the assignment files that, like, if you've already been working on assignment 3, for instance, that assignment file will still be good. This change gets made in the gradebook on Avenue, actually. All we have to do is adjust what the denominator is on Avenue, and that will, you know, put the grade changes into effect, or the bonus changes into effect. Yeah, so I actually already received a communication from one of your students who's like, I'd still like to see the questions. I'd prefer if you didn't, like, if you were to delete them, you'd put them somewhere else for me so I could see them. And it's like, yeah, I kind of get that. I get that vibe too. Like, first of all, the assignment questions are study material, right? So if I just delete the questions, that's removing study material for you guys, and I don't want to ever remove study material for you guys. Um, and, like, number two, I kind of feel like you guys are paying a lot of money to take this course, so you guys should, you're paying for the questions, so you should get all the questions you're paying for, if that makes sense. But yeah, anyway, so that's how the assignments are going to be going forward. Number three, I know I have a reputation for setting hard tests. I will try to control myself. For those of you who were worried that I was just going to be, like, nuking you from orbit with the first midterm, please be advised that I have reduced the difficulty of what I was going to do for you guys on that first midterm. So I'm going to try... Don't think of it so much as nuking you guys from orbit as, just regular chemical missiles from orbit. We'll save the nukes for the exam. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Test 1 won't be as hard as it was going to be. So I'm going to start having weekly office hours as well. We'll have the weekly office hours on Teams. Some of you may have seen that I put up a Piazza poll as to when that particular time slot is. I put in a bunch of options, and I am right now going to check that poll. We'll see what the results are. Referendum 2020 in 1MD3. Let's see. Doop 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 doop. Doop 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 doop. Bump a bump 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 bump. Office hours poll. Doop doop. Nice to see everybody using this. Okay, so we've got 12 users, 48% think Thursday at 1:30 p.m. So, yeah, we'll go with that. Oh, geez, just changed right before my eyes. So maybe I'll give you guys like 5 minutes to enter your final, answer this poll, and I'll check back in 5 minutes, and we'll see if the poll numbers have moved, because it seems some of you may have just come to the awareness that this thing exists. So, I'll give you guys an opportunity to fill out the poll. In the meantime, I'm going to keep talking. So, number 5. You guys will now have a 3-day grace period for assignment submissions. You may submit your assignments up to 3 days after the due date with no penalty, and we'll apply this retroactively to the people who submitted assignment 1. Please note, I still consider the due date to be Sunday, and for the 3-day grace period to be a grace period. This isn't moving the due date to Wednesday. This is giving you a grace period after the due date, which is still on Sunday. So, keep that in mind, please. Just so you know, this is going to push back the releasing of your feedback and results probably until Friday of every week. So that's where we pay for it. But yeah, so 3-day grace period on assignments now. There you go. So those are the effective policy changes. There is a bunch of other stuff that I put in this post, so if you're interested in that, please read it. At this point in time, I received an email in response to all of this from Tasneem, who sent me the original email asking to make the assignments less difficult. And I'd like to read it for you now, because she asked me to, and she said she'd, in normal circumstances, she would have gotten up in front of the class and said this, so I will act on her behalf at this point in time. Dear Professor Moore, I just read the update on Avenue to Learn, and I am overwhelmed with the way that you have thought for us. I thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the entire first-year CS students. You have been a guiding figure at this moment, and each and every advice of yours is most meaningful to us. I can't express in words how you have relieved our stress and the burden that we are feeling. You have really encouraged us to fight this situation like a marauder. We go Marauders. We will never forget your impact on our 2020 online education journey. You are the best, Professor Moore, and the CS batch of 2024 will always love you the most. Well, we'll see. Thank you. Best regards, Tasneem. I hope that sentiment doesn't change too much after the midterm. But, yeah. So, there you go. So, I've read the letter. And I know I haven't been looking at chat. We'll deal with chat. Before I open up the chat and see what you guys have been saying about all of this, I would like to talk about assignment 1 just a moment, because it seems that there have been various problems with assignment 1 and its submission, and people getting, significantly less on assignment 1 than they thought they would. So there have been a couple of things that I've been noticing which, shall we say, are not best practices, and I'd like to address them. Number 1, people putting their solutions in files other than the assignment file that was distributed. So the way that the system works is the assignment file that we give you is the one that the grades are applied to. So if you change the file name of the assignment, the auto-grader doesn't know where to look for the assignment for your solutions. So if you do like assignment copy 1 or copy 2 or any variation on those themes, anything you put in those isn't going to be graded. Maybe this was not sufficiently clear from the assignment instructions, but you have to not rename the assignment files. Otherwise, this is what happens. It is not, that is just the way that things are. Also, all of your solutions should be in the same assignment file, and that should be the assignment file that we give you. Yeah, if you didn't do that, I don't know what to say. There have been various people who are, complaining about the fact that, like, I don't know how it happens particularly, but they seem to have submitted the wrong assignment file, and, like, the thing they submitted doesn't actually have their solutions in it. It's like, okay, but, it is a reasonable expectation on the part of the instructional team that you guys can submit a file that contains your solutions, and it's in the correct format. We're extending a certain degree of clemency on assignment 1 because it's the first assignment and this is the first semester of your first year, etc., etc. Maybe, and what with all the everything that's been going on right now, a little bit of mercy is in order, I suppose. But it makes a lot of extra work for us to deal with all of that, and the time that we spend dealing with all of that is, time that we're not doing, more useful things. So you gotta submit things in the right format, and we're gonna expect you guys to submit things in the right format on assignment 2. We're gonna expect you to put all of your answers in A2.IPYNB, and if you don't, there will be consequences. So check your submissions. I know this isn't most of you that this is a problem for, but, like, Snap, snap, guys, get with the program. Wake up and smell the coffee. If you don't submit your work to us, we can't mark it. Also, if you guys could just stop sending me your assignment files as email attachments, I would greatly appreciate that too. Please, the only mechanism for submission is either Avenue or Jupyter. Like, we have two separate avenues of submission, so to speak. One or the other of them should be good for you. You shouldn't have to send an email attachment to me. If everybody did that, I'd have like 400 emails being sent to me per week, and that's just way too much. So please, assignments, you have to get on this stuff. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a look at the chat now. It's probably, oh, all right. I'm gonna start at the top because Inflect. I've never heard of that. Maybe you can look up the documentation. You got to learn how to write a function. So, question about the exam and the tests. How many questions will there be on the test? You'll just have to wait and find out. Will we have a whole day to finish the test? Yes, you'll have a 24-hour period starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and going till 9 a.m. the next day Eastern Standard Time. If you're living in a different time zone, please adjust that value accordingly, and that will be your start time for the test. I have to do a 24-hour window because that gives everybody, nobody's disadvantaged for living in a different time zone. So, people complaining. To the people who are continually asking me if I'm going to move the lectures to Teams, I am not going to move the lectures to Teams. I like YouTube. Other people like YouTube. No. The office hours will be on Teams. That'll be enough. The audio, honestly, the audio quality problems on Teams alone would keep me here. Profs don't necessarily cover everything that's in the textbook. I know for the C course I'm doing for the second year class, I'm not covering everything in the textbook, but that's kind of because the textbook has been written for people to who know no programming at all, and second years have obviously done 1D04, so yeah. Did any of the questions from assignment 1 get changed to bonus? No. Assignment 1 is super easy though, so we'll do that on a going forward basis. This is a lot of complaining about the math department. You guys are the best. Sorry, I'm just kind of reading your comments, but I think that's, it's important. I know we have lecture material to get to, and I know we're just about a week behind on the lecture material, but don't worry, everything will work out in the end. My goodness. If Mark told you to write your Mac ID on the assignment file name, then that was wrong. Please email him. He's the one who runs the auto grading, so he'll be able to fix your file name and rerun your grades. Yeah, so I think like everybody needs to thank Tasneem, because like you guys got a good rep. You guys lucked out with her. Okay. You can get your grades off of, you can get the feedback report off of Jupyter Hub by going into the assignments tab, and there'll be a feedback thing. If Mark remembered to generate the feedback, which hopefully he did. But anyway, I think that's enough of this kind of stuff for the moment. I'll take a look at the poll. Yeah, okay, so it looks like the office hours are going to be today from 1:30 to 2:30. So, I'll make an announcement about that, but this is the time slot that has been selected democratically by the whole class. So there you go. We shall have office hours today at 1:30. And on an ongoing basis going forward into the future. So there you go. Okay, so let's talk about actual lecture material now, okay? Okay. So, when last we spoke, we were talking about lists. We'd gone through the basic operations on lists, and we had just, I remember we were like 1.5 minutes from the end of class, and it was aliasing, and I'm like, you know what, let's just cover this next time. So, let's talk about aliasing. So, there's a difference between the data itself and a reference to the data. It's impossible to understand aliasing without understanding the difference between the memory itself and references to that memory. So if I pull up my handy-dandy Python interpreter, let's imagine I have a list L. 1, 2, or 1, 3, 4, 6. Sure. So a lot of people think about L as being this list. That's actually an incorrect way of thinking about it. L is not the list. The list is an artifact of the memory. So the list exists in the computer's memory. What L is it's a reference to that memory. You can think of L as being a box that contains an arrow that points at the memory where this list is contained. An analogy, my other class is doing a similar topic right now, and an analogy that I came up with is if you imagine your computer memory as a train going along its track. This array is a number of cars in the train that have been set aside for you and your friends, who are the data. What L actually is it's your ticket. It's your train ticket. So your ticket will tell you what car your seat is in on the train, and that's what L is. So why am I telling you all of this? Because assignment in Python does something very different when it's being applied to train tickets rather than hard data. So if we have h, some other thing, some other variable, and we assign it L, if we ask what H is, it looks like it's the same thing as L, right? However, what we have done is we have not duplicated the data. H does not contain the array 1, 3, 4, 6. It contains a reference to the same memory that L is referencing. So, if we modify L, say L at 2 is equal to 10, you can see we have modified the third value in the list to the value of 10. If we ask the computer what H is, you'll notice that the same modification has occurred in H. This indicates that H is pointing at the same data in memory. When we ask for H's value, it's essentially, yeah, we're just looking up the same memory. H and L are referring to the same memory. I'm going to check to see if we have any questions about that. We'll talk about this type of thing during office hours, I guess. Yeah. So one of your cohorts, one of your comrades at arms, who knows a bit of Python, knows that there's a difference between a shallow and a deep copy. So this is a shallow copy. All we're doing is duplicating the reference to the memory rather than creating a separate instance of the memory. This is a thing that's true for all mutable data types in Python. So if I tell you that a data type is mutable, it means that this is true. This property of it is true. So yeah. So the question then becomes, how can we modify this? Like, what do we do? So one interesting thing is, if you perform a concatenation operation, you'll notice that that actually breaks the reference. So in Python, you have a difference between mutating and non-mutating operators. A mutating operator will just modify the memory in place. It does not create a new instance of that memory, or of that data in memory. You then also have non-mutating operators. Concatenation, the plus here, that is a non-mutating operator. What happens there is that is not an in-place operation. It creates a new copy of your data and assigns it assigns L a reference to the new data. That's why H is still pointing at the old data. L is pointing at a new array, one that is the result of this operation here. So, in effect, you can use concatenation to separate references. But, we're going to see how this works in a slide or two. So, in this particular case, A is equal to A plus 4. If we look at what A and B is, what happens is A is now referring to this separate one, B is referring to its own thing. Is it just me, or do these look like they're in the wrong order? Good Lord, this is what you do. This is what you get when you leave TAs in charge of fixing your slides. So, and this is all stuff that I've demonstrated anyway. If we modify one of the two references that are both referencing the same memory, then it'll show up in both of them, in summary. So, an interesting thing is that we can actually contain references inside of other lists. So, for example, if I had some new thing P, you'll notice that if we put H inside of an existing list, when we ask to print it, the reference is followed, and whatever data that reference is referencing gets put in where it's supposed to be. So if we modify H at 0 is equal to 100, for example, and we ask for the value of P, you'll notice that this value has been changed. I know, right? Crazy stuff. So, yeah. Append is a mutate. I believe it's a mutating operator, but we can always test that. So if L is this, and R is L dot append 10. L now has the value of 10 appended to it, and R also has that value on it. So the append operation is a mutating operation. It does not move the memory around. It doesn't break any references. So, yeah. In general, these guys are your mutating operations, and these guys are your non-mutating operations. So if you wanted to take a list slice, that's a non-mutating operation. You'll get new memory if you do that. Good. I'm going to see if anybody, if I haven't, oh, geez, oh my goodness. I hate hitting the wrong button like that. Okay, let's see what we got in chat. What if we change L directly, like assign another list to L? Good question. So if we say L is equal to, 10, 10, 10, L is 10, 10, 10, R is still the old thing. So you can think of declaring as an array as a non-mutating operator. Nishit says, show us the cheap trick to reverse the list. Okay. It's : -1. Ta-da! That's slicing for you. I think we got some slides coming up on slicing, so I'll just leave it to the slides. So, I'm gonna skip this one, I think, because it's not gonna be tested, and we're behind in the slides. But essentially, the question: can you keep track of all of these operations and what refers to what? It's an exercise in that. So, slicing. Yeah, there you go. Slicing and many other operators work uniformly on all sequence types: strings, tuples, lists, etc. So it's slice of S from I to J, step K. I, J, step K. So if you leave I out, it assumes the beginning of the list. If you leave J out, it assumes the end of the list. And K can be negative. That means counting backwards. That's why : -1 reverses the list. We start from the beginning of the list to the end of the list, counting by -1, since Python interprets, like in Python it's kind of interesting because you can do negative arguments. This is not something that you can do in a lot of programming languages, but giving a negative argument will basically give you the argument counting from 1 and the back of the list forward. So, yeah. So, yeah, R at -3 is 6. So 10, 4, 6. But yeah, so for example, if we have the string AA, BB, CC, DD, and we slice that, yes, you can slice string literals, from 1 to 4 by 2, we get AB. If we leave this out, we get ABC. Oh, I did a D I did a C instead of a D. There we go. ABCD, all lowercase. If we start from the beginning, we get all the uppercase ones. So you can see it's counting every other one. That like that. Yeah. There you go. So slicing always returns a new list. It is a non-mutating operator. This is not an in-place operation. We are, in fact, creating new memory. We're allocating new memory. The new memory is not created. It is created in factories, but you get to plug it into. Anyway, questions on the chat? So mutating keeps references, non-mutating breaks references. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. How many elements do these list slices have? This normally we'd do a rapid fire round in class, but I will leave this as an exercise to the reader. Because again, we got to keep motoring here. Lists versus tuples. Tuples are like lists, but they are immutable. There is no aliasing on tuples. Tuples are not subject to aliasing. However, and that might be a good thing, tuples are also faster. So in terms of the memory operations, the speeds of the memory operations, because there's less bookkeeping that has to go on behind the scenes with a tuple, they are faster in memory. And, for your purposes in this class, there's not going to be a whole lot of difference. The programs that we're working on are not sufficiently large for the speed penalty you pay for using a dynamic data structure to be, considerable. So don't worry too much about it. Just know that tuples are used round braces and lists use square braces. Sets. So sets in mathematics are unordered collections of objects without repetition. So if you think back to, hopefully you guys did sets in high school a little bit. A set, it's like, the classical example is like, you've got a bag and you've got jelly beans in the bag. And it's like each, the set of colors, colored jelly beans in that bag, that's the set, right? Think of a set as like a container, and the elements of the set as the things in that container. Now the trick is that sets don't have repetition. So in Python, we define are we going to get to the syntax? Yeah, okay. We define a set in Python using curly braces. So that's a set. We'll call it S. If you declare a set with repeated elements, those elements aren't actually stored. A set, the biggest difference between sets and tuples, for example, is that in a set you can't guarantee that the elements will be in any particular order. Any duplicate elements are removed upon insertion, and you can't index it. So if I were to ask for the second value of the type S, it's like set object does not support indexing. So there you go. There are set operations that you can perform: union, intersection, and difference, and cardinality, and we will talk about those next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you guys at 1:30. I'll just answer whatever questions there are here. Can't you create memory by downloading it from the internet? Nope. Can you use hex, interesting idea. Hex ID L. Yep, that'll give you the memory address. That gives you the memory address. What you're actually looking at right now is a pointer. Pointers are not a thing that we're going to cover in this class. If you want to learn about pointers, I recommend taking a course on C. There you go. Well, I'll record the tutorial, and I guess I'll put it up on something somewhere somehow. Yeah, I'll record it. Good. Cool. Will the exam contain questions from this week's lectures? I don't know. I haven't set the exam yet. If I promise you that they will, I will forget that I have promised you that it will. And if I promise you that it won't, I will forget that I promised you that it won't. How can we distinguish between an alias and a copy of the list? Well, you could look at the pointers. If, like for example, do we have two things that are aliased right now? Well, let's just make one quickly. L is 1, 2, 3. R is L. L, R. Hex ID L is that. Hex ID R is the same value. That's how you can tell if they're copy or different. If R is a different piece of memory that says the same thing, it'll have a different address. Yeah, notice that the addresses, while they look very similar, they're actually slightly different. So there you go. Cool. All right. That's it. Go. Have fun. Talk to people and go play a video game or something. I don't know. Whatever you do to relax. We haven't made a decision about assignment 2 yet, but we will make one in the following days. So there you go. All right. Take her easy, folks.